more virtual we become, the greater the pull to get to the real.
Welcome to Disrupted Science, the occasional conversation between the authors of the upcoming book, How the Internet Disrupted Science, now available for pre-order. I'm Joy Moore here with my co-author, Ken Anderson, and today is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. Hey, Ken,
Hey, Joy.
how's
How
it
are you?
going?
I'm going to ask you, how's it going with you?
Pretty good. I've gotten back to play a little bit more pickleball than
Oh,
I
gosh.
we had some snow days last week, so it's
Well, that's
good.
good. That's good. We have
Um,
we have we have ongoing snow days here, but so our big excitement was, as you and I discovered, we both have respect for what we do in the shadows. We both enjoyed the superb owl.
we did not enjoy the Super Bowl at all, neither of us.
No, it was terrible. It
Um,
was a terrible
but
game.
recasting it as the Superb Owl Party, yeah, I'm gonna celebrate that next year.
Yeah, yeah.
Full on.
Hoot hoot. But what's been interesting is coming out of it. I mean, everybody's talking about like the ads, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you do, right? When you have a game that sucks so bad. And the the reflection is that, whether there's kind of a coincidence going on with ad spending and where bubbles pop,
Yeah.
right?
It's like it's so telling. It
It is. So here's our breakdown borrowed from other smart people. So you had, let's say, we'll call it the Internet Bowl. And I went through, there's actually a Wikipedia page where it lists
hmm
all the ads by Super Bowl, right?
Uh-huh.
That ran during that Super Bowl. And in the Internet Bowl of the season of 2000, so the bowl would have been in 2001. It was the .com bowl, we'll call it that, right? So it was
Yeah.
Britannica.com. Everybody goes to there still. Computer.com, very popular site today. E1040.com. I can't. It's in my bookmarks.
What
I'm
was that?
telling you. And of course, pets.com. The
Pets, that was the big one.
Yeah, the one. And then there was another one that I came across called lifeminders.com,
What do they
where
do?
it's almost like a hint of agentic AI. It's like we'll go through the news and just send. It was like Pointcast, but by email. We'll
Oh,
customize the
okay.
news just and give you just alerts for yourself, but it's gone.
Well,
So,
that could have been good, but that's bad branding. I thought I was a babysitter.
but so they had all this spending, right? And then
hmm
poof, the internet, the .com bubble bursts. And then you had in 2022 the crypto bowl, right?
Yeah.
And it was like the stadiums are named crypto and all this stuff. And then this year, poof, the crypto bubble has popped. And then this Super Bowl and there was only one crypto ad in this Super Bowl, by the way. And it was the
hmm
one that everybody ragged on because it was boy band karaoke.
Terrible.
And then it just ends with Coinbase or whatever it was. And it's like I saw this video, they had it on Jimmy Kimmel of this family watching it, and they're all flipping the bird and going, ah!
Ah,
And it's like
why did
ruined
you
you
trick
just,
me into watching this?
I know everybody's having fun singing along to this, and then you just do that. So, anyhow. And then this one, all the AI ads, right?
hmm
And you found that one of them was
Yeah.
kind of a real
It was
humdinger as
it was
far as its
yeah.
spend and
Well,
result.
it turned out to be not only a big old waste of money, but it was a fiasco for the company. So AI.com,
Hmm.
and I don't remember the ad. But
I don't either, actually.
yeah, but apparently they paid $70 million to get the domain AI.com. Okay, that just one. So that's what they have. They own a domain.
Right,
In a minute, I'll tell you what they do with it. They also paid $15 million for a 1 minute ad in the Super Bowl,
right.
and all of their servers crashed immediately. So, um,
They're good at business.
and but what do? They don't do anything. They just own a domain where you could sign up to register a domain. So that was
Well,
$85
it's
million dollars
OpenClaw,
for
isn't it?
nothing.
It
Yeah,
they say
it's
they've tamed OpenClaw.
right, but it's not a thing.
No.
It's what, well, it's just like registering a domain.
Yeah, you get a handle for
Anywhere.
your OpenClaw with them.
Yeah. Well, so what are the normal places you go to register domains?
Well,
Like,
no, so this is, from what I understand, AI.com is a place you can register a handle. So it's not a domain in the HTTPS sense.
oh, okay.
It's a handle for an OpenClaw agent that
Uh-huh.
is then yours. And you pay them so you can get, like Joy Moore, the agent for Joy Moore, or for Kent Anderson, or whatever, and whatever you want your handle to be. And then they say they've tamed OpenClaw so you can then install it on your computer and it'll schedule appointments for you and remind you to make dinner and get
Ah,
recipes, whatever you
yeah, this
tell it to
is
do,
so
and give.
relevant to all the people watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm sure everybody wants something to steal all their credit card data and put it into a server that they've never heard of. And the other question I had, so they've paid I want to look this up, but I didn't have time, is they paid $70 million for the domain like 3 years ago. It was a
Mhm.
while ago, right?
Yeah.
So they've had to renew it.
Oh gosh. Was
That's
did they
not
have?
$10 renewal fee. GoDaddy's not like, okay, 70 million was enough. You want to hold on to it, it's only $15 for renewal. They're paying millions to renew it too. Oh, so good at
That's
business.
that's so cute. Well, good luck to
So,
them.
yeah,
I hope they get their ROI.
they're not gonna they're gonna get RO crashed. But I mean, this is so, is this the signifier, like, we a sign that they're overspending because they're desperate, right? I mean, this has the
Mhm.
whiff of desperation around it. And like I wrote about earlier this week or last week, I forget, I've been writing so much lately. But and someone else had noted this. It's like if all these AI tools were so great, why would you sell them?
Yeah, that's a good point. It should be the Intel Inside.
Right.
So the ads for the AI companies should be like the ones that you see on PBS News Hour, where it's like
Hmm.
you don't understand what the company is. They're just doing some kind of brand,
Yeah, or it's
awareness.
just,
Yeah.
or there's this big new company that has miraculous everything, and you don't know
Yeah.
quite how they're doing it.
Right. It should be part of
But
the supply chain. It should
yeah,
be a workflow tool. And a lot of companies, like the Intel Inside,
yeah,
I don't go to the store and buy an Intel chip. I buy a computer that works better because of it.
exactly. So speaking of that, our guest today is
Hmm.
with Gadget Software, which is kind of an Intel Inside
Hmm.
company. And we're going to talk with Max Riggsbee in a second, and he's going to tell us about all of that and cartoons and a couple of amazing uses of AI. So,
Hmm.
yeah, in very carefully controlled environments. So, without further ado, we'll get on to our interview with Maxwell K. Riggsbee Jr.
Here we go.
Maxwell K. Riggsbee Jr. is a technologist currently specializing in developing machine learning systems around content serving U.S. government policymakers. Max is also well known for the cartoons he puts out on LinkedIn. Inspired by his love of 19th century political cartoons, these are timely, well designed encapsulations of current events. One he did in honor of my post about Rachel So and Archive was particularly lovely and is on display behind me. We wanted to talk to Max about his career, his cartoons, and his vision for where all this is going. So, welcome, Maxwell.
It is a pleasure to be with both of you.
It's great to see you again.
Absolutely.
So, Max, your career, you've worn a number of different hats. You've spanned tech, finance, consulting, and sales, which probably gives you a multifaceted perspective on what is going on in our economy, tech space, sales space today. And so I think we're seeing that coming out in your cartoons. And we want to start with the cartoons and understand why you started doing them, how you started doing them,
And how you do them.
and how you do them. Yeah.
Sure. That's an excellent question. So, when I'm not doing all of those things, I have a love of media and medium. Have read a lot of Marshall McLuhan and sort of folks in that stream, if you will. And what's always struck me is the impact that media has on us as people. Of course, as we move into the generative space, we get into this weird world, right, where we have technology that's creating stuff, right?
Hmm.
And so, I look around the internet a lot and I see how people are trying to evaluate the quality of the outputs. Can it make a butterfly look like a butterfly, or can it count from 1 to 10? But I'm actually much more interested in its ability to understand nuance. I'm much more interested, can it really, can I give it something complex? And if I give it something complex, can it actually create an understanding for me?
Mhm.
Um, in the 19th century, we didn't have television and we didn't have radio, and it wasn't until the very end that we even had the Kodak, right? The camera.
Hmm. Right.
And so political cartoonists were one way in which people who weren't as literate could actually get very powerful meaning, right? That's, where Harper's Weekly and Thomas Nast and a whole crew of people really made a huge, huge impact.
Mhm.
And so just by chance one day, I started experimenting with, can this thing actually create a political cartoon?
Hmm.
And if you think about political cartoons, right, there's nuance in them, there's messaging, there's sarcasm, there are all these characteristics.
Yeah, and there's all these little details in the background that you got to look for because
Yeah,
those are the context clues or the cultural uh digs or, thumbs
Signposts.
ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is correct. Now, in my general work, I work a lot with content all the time. That's what we do. We try and organize it in a manner that grounds it, that makes it relevant, that makes it true, that makes it trustworthy. But I use the political cartooning as a way of understanding sort of shifts in the models. Are they really understanding, what's going on when I give it some, like I just did one a little while ago, about, the bridge between,
Hmm.
Hmm.
Michigan and
Right.
Canada,
The
right?
Gordie Howe Bridge.
Does it understand that? Right.
Right.
And yeah, put in a character with a Stanley Cup with a hockey stick, right? In a variety of things, right? And so I go through various ways in which I look at the complexity of that. But then it turned out that because I do like 19th century cartooning, and I do think in many ways we're weirdly, tilting closer to the 19th century than the 21st
Hmm. We're
century
kind of
these
in a
days,
gilded age, aren't we?
right? We're a bit of the Gilded Age. I felt it was
Yeah.
also an appropriate tool,
Hmm.
particularly since we are a very visual culture. When you think of social media and you think of Instagram and all of these different things, they're more about what you see
Hmm.
than what you read. Although
Hmm.
I still think the reading is important, which is why I always include some type of summarization, right?
Right.
Um, but I have actually found it to be personally very gratifying, and even educational for me, because when I'm operating kind of as an editor and a publisher, right? As
Right.
Right.
I'm testing these models, right? And so information comes in and I scrutinize it, right? Is this really capturing the essence of the message, right? Of the story? And
Hmm.
then there's another thing, which is a little bit of a cheat, which is there's always news,
Mm.
right? So I don't have to go searching for content. There's
Yeah.
always news. It's in the public domain. I'm very sensitive to things like copyright. So in that regard, I'm able to find stories. When I do work single stories, I always cite the source. So if it's
Hmm.
like I got this from here, this is what they're saying, and this is the interpretation of it to encourage people to go read it. But that's how we got here.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I've moved along with models because they change them, and sometimes it's like you're not cutting it anymore. So I'm going to move to another pairing.
Yeah. So how many
One of the
drafts does it take? I mean, from a prompting, because it sounds like there's a lot of prompt
It
modification that
so
goes in prompt sculpting, we'll say.
it's it's funny. I treat this a bit like an autonomous agentic pipeline. What I mean is the prompt is actually very short
Mm-hmm.
because what I want to understand without me giving it a lot of indicators, I want. So I work. You always work with pairs. They're always in tandem. There's a researcher who gets either one or more links of information, news stories,
Mm-hmm.
and its job is to create to analyze that in the context of a 19th century political cartoon. And so it has to read in the information, it has to sort of figure out all the nuance, maybe the commonalities between stories, but then it has to write a prompt to
Mm.
instruct another model to draw it.
Oh.
Now, you'd be surprised the things that I get involved in this. So the models, for some reason, have a problem with direction. So, for example, every now and then, again, actually more frequently than I'd like, there's a story about, you know, people losing their jobs or they're being pushed out of somewhere. And 9 out of 10 times, the model that's illustrating, instead of having people like leaving or running out of a building, it has them running into it.
Hmm.
And so, I'll go through this a few times and say, the people are running in the wrong direction. Oh, hold on, I'll fix that for you. And it's like, but you
uh-huh.
didn't. They're still running out of the building. You just have them running out of the building and to the right as opposed to the left.
Right, right.
Ultimately, what I found weirdly works, and it's really super strange, is I have to tell it, have them run at the audience,
Okay.
the
At the
viewers. Have
viewer.
them run at
Yeah,
the viewers,
you have to
right?
give
Right.
And
them
then,
a perspective, a stage direction. Yep.
but what
That's
this
right.
leads
I want
to
him going
though,
stage right,
yeah,
out
stage
of
right,
stage.
run off the stage, right? I have to sort of
Right.
tell it that kind of thing. But what this leads to is, oh, okay, but those types of differences can make a difference in not only information understanding, but I'm building a pipeline. I'm having two agents work together. So if the
Mm-hmm.
first
Yeah.
agent gets it wrong, right? Or if the second agent doesn't understand it completely, the
Hmm.
result you get is actually incorrect. Are they moving? Yes. Are they moving in the right direction? No.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I shared with you, Kent, I shared with you, I had a very strange experience. I'm still reeling over it, actually. I had a very strange experience last week.
Mm.
I was dealing with this Medgar Evers situation that's going on with the National Park Service.
Mm.
And
Right.
so, I had an article, and the cartoon I got back was just absolutely wrong. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was truly, 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 truly wrong. And it was suggesting that the president had issued a pardon to the man that had murdered Medgar Evers. And it's like, whoa, 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 hold on. Let me go do some double check. There's nothing like this. So I
Right.
asked it, like, hey, why did you mention a pardon? And it literally told me I didn't read it.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
I didn't read the article. It literally said I didn't read it. I didn't read.
Yeah.
Hold on, I didn't read the article. I'm going to read
Hmm.
it now. Like now, and it's a little bit late, right? The cartoon's been made.
You turned in your
And
homework,
yeah,
bad
go
student.
yeah, go do your homework, right? And so what this is, so I'm both a technologist and a skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I tell my teams all the time, you can use these tools, but you have to check and do not just let them run wild because they make mistakes and sometimes they can make pretty big ones. And actually, this is an example of a big one where I'm testing a pipeline with a cartoon. It
Right.
literally drew the wrong cartoon was drawn. It was the wrong cartoon drawn very well.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was also trying to preserve resources of some kind because there was there's some protocol in there where it's like, okay, if you're running out of RAM or you're running out of DRAM or something, don't process the full thing, just take a shot.
It what it did was it read the slug. So it took the
Mm-hmm.
words in the
Mm.
slug that we use for SEO and it said, okay, I think I figured out what the story is. It's like you didn't figure out anything, actually. But
Oh,
Yeah.
even
that's
worse, you handed off an instruction to another agent that drew the wrong picture.
Right.
Now, yeah, fine. It's a political cartoon, and I read it and I went, this cartoon's broken. This isn't right. And I went back and forth with it. but what if that was a medical diagnosis? I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
right. So that's the real question mark for me.
Yeah,
So it's,
well, I mean,
yeah.
we have to realize we're dealing with computer systems, right? And there are costs to running those, and there are resource allocation schemes going on inside, server farms and everything else, and those things are going to affect what you get back. I mean, I've seen that with other instances where I've done things where it's obviously they're throttling the some aspect of their technology stack in order to get me something quickly, but not go too deep into it, not process it fully. So
And they
it's
tinker with
interesting.
them,
Oh
right?
yeah,
I
you
mean,
never know what's going. It's a black box.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so that's what I use this all for, right? So
Yeah, it sounds like you're pinging the black box, or multiple black boxes to see what you can get out of it, uh, to achieve a certain outcome that you already know what you want, and so you're testing the systems to see how they can work together to produce it.
correct.
Is
It's
that
as much a
right?
diagnostic tool. It's as much a diagnostic tool as it is an
Yeah.
Hmm.
entertainment tool,
Yeah.
Yep.
right? And that's how I use it. And I will take things that I'm learning and I go, okay, hold on, guys. When we're dealing with, we ingest a lot of data. We ingest Federal Register every day. And
Hmm.
so, when I'm working with my team, it's like, I've learned some interesting things that are going on with the models. Let's make sure that we are putting in the right guardrails when we are ingesting and creating the outputs that we're creating. Let's make sure that we're checking for certain conditions. But
Right.
it's an eye opener on multiple levels.
So, as
Um,
a fan of your cartoons, I noticed there was a shift at one point. They were almost always like pen and ink, black and white, and then suddenly they got some tinting and some sepia tone kind of qualities to them. Was that a change in models that you
that
went
was a
through?
change. That was a deliberate change.
Just an aesthetic choice of yours, or
Yes, partially because
okay?
what I started realizing or started thinking was, well, first of all, even in the 19th century, cartoons weren't entirely black and white.
Mm-hmm.
They had some levels of colorization. But also, what I also started realizing is that there are subtleties in the content that doesn't come out as clearly in grayscale. And
Mm.
so, I did one recently that involved Renee Good, and it had the picture of a rose
Mm.
in the background in the sky. And in gray scale, it was
Yeah,
missing
it
something.
needs the red. Yeah.
It just leaves something, right? It needed to pop to
Mm-hmm.
the audience, right? You needed to really understand what that meant in that moment. And so that's why there's been a shift.
Hmm.
I just find it, I think it's more effective for the viewer. And also, we are not accustomed to looking at political cartoons this way. And
Mm-hmm.
so the more clues, I think, is helpful to the viewer.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, what's been the feedback generally? Are people digging it?
Here's the thing that's weird. Like, I can't figure out what people like. So it's really strange. Like, so for example,
So, all this data you're getting back
it's so
still?
strange. Like
Well,
the
that's
one,
just to put a notation on it. You
yeah,
primarily publish them on LinkedIn,
I
right?
do, I do,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
do.
and I was looking to see if you had a separate gallery for them somewhere else on the web, and I couldn't find it.
No, I don't because I can't. I have a day job, so
Right.
I have to limit.
Okay.
I have to
Well, call
limit.
me
I have to
later.
limit the
Let's
distribution.
let's talk about this.
I think,
Yeah,
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 you've got
yeah,
a
yeah,
producer in
yeah.
waiting.
So, what's weird is I think I can't quite figure it out. One of the most popular cartoons actually had to do, it was one that actually had to do with Salesforce, fundamentally saying,
Oh, yeah.
hey, guess what? We made a mistake. We were wrong, right? And the guy's sort of
Hmm.
standing in the middle he's on a plateau in the middle of nothing as people are falling off of it, right? That
Right.
thing went nuts.
Yeah.
That thing went crazy. There was
Yeah,
another
because
one.
everybody who works with Salesforce probably printed it out and put it
Right. And shared it like
in
crazy
their
with
People
all
lunch
their
tried
room.
it.
other
But right
Salesforce.
But right behind that, ironically, is what I did recently about the president fundamentally saying, hey, I'm going to decertify all these Canadian planes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Nuts, went nuts, went nuts.
Hmm.
I mean, people are commenting, people are forwarding it. Canadians are commenting on it. Americans are commenting on it. And it's like, so okay. I mean, I don't understand why that one and the other one and a few others. I can't quite figure out like a pattern
Mm.
to where people broadly find commonality in the visual.
Hmm.
It yeah, I wish I could, I guess. I don't know. Most of the time, I just find stories that I think are interesting. Sometimes they have nothing to do with politics. It's like, you won't be able to get frozen orange juice soon, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Right.
that was like, I know that for some people, maybe even me, it's like, I kind of miss that. I kind of used to enjoy those things in the freezer, right? So I still mostly do it for my own entertainment,
Hmm.
and things that I think are interesting. So,
Yeah.
But in your professional career, you
yeah.
are working in the realm that involves politics and the federal government. And so I wanted to switch gears for a second
Sure.
to ask
Sure.
you about the work that you do for your company. Most of us, you know, regular old citizens have no idea how public policies get made. There's a huge information machine that goes into getting content from source material to the people who are going to process it to something that comes out that's going to affect us. And I think, as far as I understand, that's the space that you're working in.
Yes, so that's one of the spaces. We so let me give you a little flavor as to how that actually happened. So
And
about
can you buzz market your company for us a little bit?
I'm sorry, say again.
Can you buzz market your company name for us?
Oh, Gadget Software.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
Gadget Software. So about so we've been working in data and language, not language models, but in artificial intelligence, natural language processing for a decade.
Hmm.
Before there was ChatGPT and all, so we were doing it anyway. And about I guess about 3 years ago, someone had just asked me at a meeting, like, do you think your software could help us with this was the craziest comment. It was like with the Federal Register. And I said, I have no idea because I have no idea what you're talking about. Like I don't even know what that is. Where like is it near a supermarket? Like where do I find it?
Yeah.
And so virtually, they slipped across the table because it was a Zoom meeting. They slipped across the table the URL. And so I went there. I went, oh, this is a mess. This is like a bit of a mess. I don't know. And then I turned around and gave it to one of my analysts and said, this is a mess. Is there anything we could do with it? And she got back to me and said, believe it or not, there's a lot we could do with it. We can actually make this far more a much better consumable. And so we decided to just go eat the whole thing. And there was another rationale behind it. It's not entirely because we wanted to be in public policy.
Hmm.
It's just, and you guys know this very well. You write about this quite often, right? Content is hard to get. It's
Hmm.
really hard to get, right? And so we're like, it's public and it talks to a lot of industries and it has a lot of interesting language in it. It actually is a really good platform for us to use to constantly exercise our platform.
Mm.
So the initial rationale behind it wasn't really about getting into public policy. It was this is a really big set of data,
Right. It
and
seems like
Yeah.
a good bone to chew on.
it's a really good bone to chew on, and it updates every single day, so we can
Yeah.
actually build a recurring pipeline around it.
Yeah.
It just so happens that that pipeline, because we also are in conversations with folks in scholarly publishing, that pipeline is not dissimilar from the pipeline that many scholarly publishers use.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so there are similarities. There are similarities in what we're doing there, and
Well, the
commonalities. Not
multiple
commonalities in
industries,
data.
the vocabulary, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of commonality there.
Yeah.
So we started off there, but our shift really is much broader. We are looking to just ingest content, but we are way upstream. We're not chatbots. We're not any of those tools. Our goal is to provide the underlying computer compatible, if you will, data that makes those
Yeah.
technologies reliable and not
Hmm.
hallucinate and have all the care and feeding that they need. And that's really what we specialize in.
Right. And the curation that you do as part of this pipeline, what does that mean in for real world people?
Yeah, that's a
Where
great
is the
question.
data coming from and who's it going to and what
So
do they do with
And
it?
this is also your idea of the compute ready document, right?
correct. So we run a daily. We so just to be clear, I have 25 years of federal data. We have processed on a continual basis the last 5 years. So every single day we go to the Federal Register. And what we do is we actually retrieve all proposed regulations or rules and enacted rules and executive actions, which include executive orders. We don't
Hmm.
do notices only because they're just really noisy, and it's we're having a meeting on Thursday in room 228, and it's like
Right, very
we don't want to.
procedural. Yeah.
That's kind of nutty. And so that pipeline runs every single day. We have customers who actually are interested in bits and pieces of that information, depending on
So who are your customers?
utility. We have utility customers, customers in the utility industry, customers in the gaming industry. We have we are currently working with customers in the foundation industry, and then we're trying to pull in some right now in scholarly publishing.
Hmm.
So people who have an interest in what's going on in
The
federal
regulatory environment.
regulatory policy.
And not just federal. So, interestingly enough, in the utility space, they start to become much more interested in what's actually happening in municipalities,
Hmm.
like
Oh,
cities and towns.
okay.
Well, think about from this
Well, that's where the
perspective,
data center thing is also starting to spike up because that's
and it's all
local zoning regulation, all that. Yep.
that's correct, and it's also
Mm,
where the rubber meets the road for them, right? I mean,
Yep.
we've all had that problem where it's like, oh, they're ripping up the street, or
Right.
yeah.
why isn't my power coming back on?
Yeah, not in my backyard.
Right.
Or should it
Right.
be? I don't know.
So we're working with them. We're particularly so we're New Jersey based. So we're really focused on the New Jersey utility companies. But what they're interested in understanding, like, what are the communities even thinking about us?
Hmm.
And are they, what kind of regulations and rules are they proposing that might be beneficial, but also could be detrimental.
Hmm.
But more importantly, what's the general sentiment? So it's not just about the federal policies. It's also about that information in general. And so we do a lot with
Mm.
municipal
Yep.
meetings. And I've learned a lot from it as well because it's like, so this is what's going on in my town.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
very selfish about it as
In
well.
your
It's like,
backyard.
we're going to do
Well, it's
my
interesting
backyard first.
it's interesting to think about it because, and what it brings to mind is that local journalism has been so hamstrung by the internet, and these meetings aren't getting covered like they used to be. And so you are getting insights that maybe a lot of citizens don't have
Yeah,
in their
it's
normal
funny.
workflow.
It's funny you say that. I actually I call the project we work on. I call it the Hamilton Project.
Oh,
And the
nice.
reason I call it that, it's because it's like, guys, you're now in the room where it happens. Like, this is literally
Hmm.
That's
where
a great
decisions are made at
thing.
that
That's so cool. Yeah.
ground level, and there are a lot of them, right?
Hmm.
Every community is making decisions, and those decisions have an impact. And citizens show up, which
Uh-huh.
is
Hmm.
something, if you're a utility, you may hear what the mayor and council have to say, but sometimes your problems or concerns didn't start with them.
Hmm.
It started with the guy who walked in and basically said, they tore up my lawn,
Right.
right? Or, they repaired my street, but it's not right.
Right.
And
Hmm.
that's often where your problem starts. By the time you get to
And
the
they
mayor
didn't
and council,
realize that he's more popular than the town administrator, and all of a sudden they've got their hands full.
that's correct. And that's where we use AI, but again, we're very far upstream. We use it to try and just surface insights. We don't
Hmm.
really use it we don't use it conversationally.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
use it in a manner that's much closer to natural language processing. Pull out all kinds of interesting insights and then make that stick, right?
Hmm.
If I come back next Thursday, don't give me a different response. If I come back next Thursday and I'm looking at the same meeting, I should see the exact same information.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It shouldn't change. And that's a decision that we made some time ago. I've been in the data business for a very long time. And the biggest challenge in the data business is variability. It's the thing you hate. I can't
Hmm.
have information changing. That's crazy. I wouldn't know what to do. And
Right.
so, as a foundational sort of tenet for us, it's the data can never change. Like, so
Hmm.
once we've used this technology to generate the insights around a specific piece of data, it just stays in place. Well, why would it change? I mean, they didn't change the data. So why
Right.
is the insight about it different this time than it was the last time? That should never
Right.
be,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Yeah.
that's that's where we are providing a grounding for any other technologies that want to use it.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So we've been critical of the AI hype bubble and just how it's distorting top-down critical thinking in the consumer economy and how that's kind of been mimicked by scientific publishers as they're chasing AI magic and LLM magic. But we also know that instances like the ones you're talking about and others where they're very carefully controlled, very carefully curated, put in specific context with specific use cases, those can work, right? Because they're inference engines, they're content handling engines, they're natural language processing, all of those things. So, can you explain the difference between consumer and expert use of these tools from your perspective?
Wow. Okay. This is awesome because I spend a lot of time thinking literally about this, right? And they are really profoundly different uses.
Mm,
So, when I'm using, any model, my favorite example, and I go to it and say, hey, did the War of 1812 actually happen in 1812? I'm just bringing with me sort of some idea of what I want to get out of the thing. I mean, by the way, it's the
hmm.
same thing is true with these cartoons, right? It's like we're going to
Hmm.
go generate a cartoon together. I'm going to give you some content, and then I'm going to review it and make sure it's okay, and then away we'll go. But that does not work very well when you start to deal with a curated corpus of information,
Mm,
which is really on the professional side. In a curated corpus of information, actually, some of this technology creates a real problem. And I think inside of enterprises, one of the challenges is I call it the big blank screen problem. Somebody somewhere shovels a lot of content into a chatbot somewhere. We could argue whether they did it well or didn't do it well, but in many ways that's not the real point. The real problem is no one knows what it knows. What does it
hmm.
know? Like I don't even know what to ask it. Like,
Hmm.
and so if
Right.
I don't know what it knows, if
Right.
I go to ask it something and it gives me an answer, uh, yeah,
It's always going to give you an answer.
always going to
Right.
give me an
With
It's
a
answer.
high
never going to
degree of
tell you that
confidence
I
too.
don't know.
Unless it can tell you it doesn't know if all the care and feeding and work has been done to say,
Yeah,
hey, if
the
you don't
prompt
find,
engineering has
Right.
yes,
been,
If you're not 95% confident,
if
just
you're
back up,
not,
back
or
the
if you
heck
hadn't,
away.
if you didn't create the question in a way to get it to tell you that it doesn't
Right. Can you
know.
ask that in a way I can understand?
it's
Yeah.
it's a problem. So what we've been working on, so what we've been really sort of promoting is you actually want to have the ability to visualize and navigate a corpus. So we do a lot with visualization. So when we convert information into compute ready, what it actually means it's a schema that can be ingested in any type of structured system,
Mm,
Hmm.
like a business intelligence dashboard, and you can navigate and you can see what's in the corpus and you can see how big it is and you can actually see. We also can inject what we like to call directed AI or directed analysis, which is if you've worked in a dashboard and it's like, oh, what's going on in China? Oh, wait a minute, this keyword and this person, right? So suddenly the size of the corpus has been reduced down maybe to a handful of pages. I can then use AI to say, hey, tell me what's going on in these pages. But see,
Hmm.
now I'm directing that conversation. And as long as I have access to the source material, like that's an interesting summary. Let me go read the actual context. I'm in
Hmm.
complete control. I can also then use a more powerful chatbot to structure because I now know what I'm working with, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so we promote this duality thing, which is, and this is a conversation we are starting to have even with scholarly publishers, which is if you were to think about the future, it's really how do you come together with a workspace in that workspace, the researcher sees what's available. They
Hmm.
see classifications and keywords and names and places, right? They see all of that. They can navigate through all of that. They can actually read it, right?
Hmm.
But then they can also use AI in a highly directed way to say, give me this response, go do this work, but give it to me as a table, or structure it like
Hmm.
this, give me my output, and away I go. If you just give them the chatbot, honestly, I mean, I don't even use them that way because I'm
Hmm.
not sure what's in it. And
Hmm.
therefore, when it gives me a response, okay, how do I, like, where did you even get that information from?
Right.
So now I have to go look at all your citations. I'm just not that sure. And so I think that's one of the challenges in the enterprise. I think that we have to enable people to see these large corpuses. This is not the same as when I could see the name of, the books or,
Hmm.
depending on which vendor, right? I can go and like, oh, I can go get an individual chapter, but the chapter is a name. And
Hmm.
I can actually go, yeah, that's the chapter that I'm interested in, and I can pull that information or maybe search against it. We've gone the complete opposite. I actually had a conversation about this with a friend of mine recently. And he asked me, he said, why do you think this is such a big deal? I said, because we've kind of forgotten the fundamentals that we already learned. If you go open any type of scholarly material, or if you go to look, read any type of nonfiction type of material, what's the first thing you start to look at? It's called the table of contents. And then
Hmm.
as you're sort of moving across, it's like, oh, here's an H1 and an H2, and oh, these are different sections. And if you go to the back, depending on how far back you go, there's an index and maybe a glossary. This is all metadata for us,
Hmm.
so we can find stuff and
Hmm.
know where we're
Yep.
Hmm.
and know how to navigate this document,
Yep.
right? Fundamentally, that all got stripped away, and we're supposed to ask a bunch of questions, but we don't know what it knows, and
Right.
so we don't really know what to ask, right?
Yep.
And then it just gives us back responses, and we're supposed to trust the answers. So we believe we need to bring both of those disciplines into this sphere, where
Right. So we
people
Hmm.
can
can,
interrogate.
yes, so they can
Hmm.
navigate. You can make
Yeah.
the corpus large. I can navigate the pieces. I can find the common intersections, and then I can use AI in a very directed way, with a
Hmm.
clear understanding as to where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
So it's a controlled sandbox where you know what information is in there. You've created a schema based on the human um, inputs around things
Goals.
like
Yeah.
headings and metadata,
Hmm.
table of contents to the index. Kent and I just finished doing the index for our book the other day, so we got
Yeah.
that on our mind.
They're
There's a
really
lot of
important,
there was
actually.
it was
They
a,
are.
there
We were so
there's
looking
a
forward to doing it. We both love doing indexes, so
yeah
we were
Yeah,
both like, kind of
there's
like,
a
oh,
lot of human
fun.
thought in that, and so if AI does not understand the index of our book, they're missing out on a lot of good stuff. Um,
100% agree.
but anyway, so if I'm understanding you correctly, by using structured content with a known provenance within a particular use case, you can get a lot more out of it than for a particular purpose than just throwing it into the chatbot soup and letting it
And you can trust it more.
and yeah.
Yeah, you can trust it. I mean, I'm a history guy, so whenever I can, I go get really big history corpus. People around me are saying they always tell me you're like really strange. It's like I just like history, So it's not really that strange. I just like history, and
You
so
know that meme of the boy and girl text messaging? I saw one yesterday where the girl text messages the boy and says, history is boring, and he just goes blocked.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's absolutely fascinating. So
Yeah.
I went out one day because I could. It's like, I'm going to eat the Pentagon Papers. And so I did.
Oh,
I ingested the whole thing. I can share with you guys. I ingested the whole thing. Now, what's interesting is I started seeing things, and it's like, I never would have thought about this.
hmm.
I never would have even, never would have crossed my mind to think about this in here because I can
Right.
see it now. I can
Yeah.
choose things, and the filters bring forward other types of things. And
Hmm.
so I can go through a very interesting process of discovery. We had, so the New York Times did the interview with Trump. I don't know, it ended up being like 2 hours.
Right.
So I did it. I took it and I put it into the
Got the
system.
transcript and
Very interesting, right?
yeah.
But here's the thing. One of the first words that popped up, we have a miscellaneous section on the screen, and was arcade. Arcade. The word arcade pops up.
Hmm.
And so one of my analysts goes, "Oh my goodness, what kind of an arcade is he building?" And so and so we go through and we're looking, and I say to her, "It's not the kind of arcade you think it is. See, you think it's a
Mm,
gaming arcade. It's really a walk path, right?
yeah.
But
It's an architectural
Yes, an architect,
reference.
Detail.
correct, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. What I said to her was, but you never would have thought about it if you didn't even see it.
Right.
Mm.
You wouldn't have gone to a chat bot and just started asking about the arcade for the East Wing or the West Wing or whichever wing it is.
Yeah,
Why
it would have hallucinated there's going to be Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, and you wouldn't have even known to ask it because why would it even be on your mind? That
Right.
ended up being a very interesting conversation about a generational understanding of a word, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And its
Mm-hmm.
application and its context, right?
Right.
But it was because we could see it. We could
Yeah.
Yep.
see it. And right, seeing it raised like, what's this doing here? And
Yep.
sure enough, there it is in the text, right? So I'm a big proponent of melding what we know works and is true. Table of contents work, index pages work, glossaries work. We know these things work. They've been going on for centuries. They've been going on for a long time,
Yep.
right? The idea is to bring some of that sensibility, as a wrapper around the artificial intelligence so that we can take advantage of the tools that we know work and are true, but
Mm-hmm.
also they help to ground the AI as well. Because when
Mm-hmm.
we don't give it those understandings, right, it goes
Hmm.
searching for things, but it's lacking a lot of contextual relevance
Right. And guardrails. Yeah. That the
and
humans have put
guardrails.
in place to say this is how you organize. This is subservient to that. This is super. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah,
Super
100%.
smart. That's super smart. There's a book that I just finished called, I think, The Thinking Machine, about
Mm.
the history of books. I think I
Yeah,
recommended it a couple of weeks ago. I think you'd love it. Just just
yeah.
because it's
Look, I'm a
about how we moved from scrolls to codexes and that whole journey, and then all the organizational book, the organizational structure of a book still works great in a
it's
lot of ways.
it's yeah, it's proven, it's perfected, it's worked for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And we've thrown a lot of our learning about what helps us there out the window,
Right.
right? We can bring it
Hmm.
back. I mean, it's not gone. I mean, there are ways to get it back. But
Yeah.
I think without it, what will happen here is you'll just see people shoveling a lot of content into these models, and folks will in controlled environments, which is what you have when you're inside of a research institution or whatever it might be. I need to get very specific things, and I need to make sure that you know it, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you know? I need to know what you know.
Yeah. Oh, this is fantastic. But
Yeah.
I'm going to be aware of the clock. That's my
Okay.
job. So we're going to move on to discoveries of the week because we want to know what your discovery of the week is. So,
Sure. All right. So my discovery of the week is so my father is 90 years old.
oh wow.
Hmm.
I'm very fortunate. He's 90 years old. He called me the other day and he said, "Hey, I just rebuilt a computer. It's just
That's
I reset the whole thing and
That's right. You got any
like
DRAM left over, Bill?
okay.
I'm taking notes, right? Like, oh, really? You can do that?
Yeah.
But we work on a project together. He has a Substack website called Then Is Now,
Hmm.
and it's really through the
We'll put a link in the
notion,
show notes.
yeah, it, what we're doing, and we've been working on it for a while, is how do we tell his story? He grew up in the Jim Crow South in North Carolina, in the 30s, right? And he has a lot of history. He's experienced a lot of things. We couldn't find the right venue, but we ultimately figured out things work best if we do 10-minute diaries, audio diaries.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so he does them. We publish together like two a month. But the last one, which is Diary Entry 18, was really like the most profound experience I've had. It was really my discovery of the week, which was, when it's about how he signed up for the military and he's finally getting his assignment, and he gets an assignment to North to go to Korea, to go to the DMZ. I mean, that's literally
Hmm.
where the man was headed off to in
Hmm.
Hmm.
1954. And 2 days, within 2 days before he was scheduled to go off, he was reassigned, and he ended up going to Germany.
Hmm.
Whoa.
Um, no, it's huge. Every single time, every single time I talk to him about this, I say, "Do you have any idea like how profound this change was in your life?" Now, here's the part that's interesting, and this is why it's also my discovery of the week. As he and I go through this process we go through, it's we use AI for this. It's very different from this cartooning thing. He actually writes, and he does an audio diary, so it is
Hmm.
all him. It's completely authentic. And then I work with him. We take AI to help create a couple of images for him. But the thing that's been most profound to him is we take his transcript, and I use Notebook LM for this, and I go through what he's talking about. I say, okay, here are the historical touch points around what you just mentioned.
Hmm.
And then I have they have their audio podcasters. Well, their job is actually not to tell you about what he just talked about. It's to tell you about the history around what he just talked about.
Hmm.
It's absolutely fascinating. And what he learned, which he didn't really know, which I certainly didn't know, was whoa, 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 whoa. If I had actually gone to Korea, I, I could have been in the demilitarized zone, and I actually could have been shot or traumatized, because that's what they're talking about. Like, this is
Hmm.
literally what was happening to people
Yeah.
that went on that particular mission.
Hmm.
And so, the sort of like the discovery of the week for me has been this notion of, wow, like you never know where a change is truly going to shift your life. And
Hmm.
it had
Hmm.
a profound change for him. It gave him a love of Europe that he followed through on. And recently, through that, he told me, "Oh, by the way, I bought my first car in Germany when I was in the military. My father's always loved buying cars overseas. He's
Hmm.
always loved Europe. I've never really fully understood why, but
Right.
now I am."
Yeah,
Does he have a
because he's,
particular brand that he likes?
Well, he was big on BMWs for a while, and then he
Yeah.
bought a Mercedes, and then he went, he started buying Volvos, and he went Swiss, and then it just after a while, it was just sort of like it's a great way to get a trip.
Yeah.
So,
So he's driven on the Autobahn
oh,
I was
he's
gonna
done it all.
say, yeah.
Yeah. So what was interesting, he
and
did
he's
it very
90.
early. He did it very early
So he's
before it
driven
took
well
off.
on the Autobahn.
Yeah, probably a little too fast. Probably a little too fast. But it's been a very interesting discovery, because what it does for me is it gives me a better understanding of him, but weirdly enough, a better understanding of me, right?
Hmm.
I begin to understand, like, oh, this is why you do some of the things that you
Yeah.
do. It's because of this. What he is learning, so we both do this diary thing together, but we both don't see it the same way. I'm
Hmm.
always
Hmm.
just interested in what he's saying. He's like, I'm interested in the history that was happening around me, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff there I didn't know at 18. Like, it
Right.
wasn't even on my mind, but to understand the circumstances that I was truly in is now giving me a different insight
So he's seeing
into
where
things.
he fit into history,
Yeah,
his
it's
story.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
really, really very interesting. And
That's
this,
so
again,
cool.
this is an applied use of AI, right? So we're
Right.
Hmm.
very prescriptive when we use it, when we don't, what we use it for, right? And it's hyper controlled, right?
Yeah. That's
That is
amazing.
so cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of
That is
fun.
a great discovery of the week.
Yeah.
Well, mine is kind of related, but much less profound. So I discovered an AI generated dog podcast on YouTube called Goldie and Frenchie. And it's a golden retriever and a French bulldog. They host a podcast
They're
and they
better
have
than
guest
anybody
breeds.
else on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, they have guest breeds, and then they invite like the Australian Shepherd on to describe where Australian Shepherds came from. And lo and behold, they don't come from Australia. They're American dogs that were named Australian Shepherd because Australian sheep came up, and the American Shepherds that they are were trained on them. And then they have corgis that come on and talk about how they were herding dogs, and then they had a really good one about the Super Bowl. They did something about the Super Bowl, and they were very disappointed it wasn't just a big bowl of food.
Hey, of course.
And and they couldn't understand why they weren't involved because they could play fetch better than any of the humans, you know,
Probably true.
especially that game. So anyhow, that was my discovery of the week. It's just it's I don't mind CGI. I don't mind, anything like that when it's done for entertainment, purely entertainment and delight purposes. And this is just pure. If you just want a 2 minute, chuckle and a feeling of just being happy, just check out Goldie and Frenchie, and you'll just they run a pretty good podcast.
I wonder if we could submit questions for them, like topics. I bet they
I
would take them.
oh, we've
What's
got
your take
we'll
on so and so? Yeah.
that's right.
I'd
That's
rather
right.
I'd rather hear from a golden retriever and a French bulldog than a lot of other
We may be
people.
changing our whole podcast up. We'll have Mr. Fish and Cowboy.
Yeah, Mr. Fish and Cowboy.
All right, Jordy, you've got one?
I have one. Mine is a little bit more it's old tech that I learned about. And it's purely mechanical. So have either of you been on a sky ride at an amusement park?
I have,
I mean,
yes.
not recently, but yeah.
Yeah. So they're like ski lifts, but they just go across, right?
Right.
So I've got a backdoor window into Busch Gardens, Williamsburg here. I know somebody who's involved in what they're doing, and I learned that they're getting ready to do um, their maintenance on the sky rides. And as part of it, I learned about the mechanics of it, and it's so fascinating. It's like pure Leonardo da Vinci mechanics. It's pulley systems, it's weights and counterweights, and it's just kind of beautiful that it's been around. Well, this one's been around for 50 years. Um,
Wow.
but the reason it came up is that they have to replace the wires that hold the gondolas.
The
And
cable,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, the cable. And so it's not just one cable, it's it's three, that there's one technician, of which there are probably five people in the country who know how to do it, who
Mm.
braids it to a certain tension and welds it along the way and
Mm.
leaves enough space for it to grow 5 feet over
As it
time
stretches.
and as it stretches and things like that. So it's so cool. It's like so mechanical. It can't be done with computers. I'm sure computers could evaluate it, but the fact that this is something that has been working for 50 years on the same system of pulleys and weights and levers and just a dude who knows how to maintain it, I thought that was really cool.
That's
You know,
amazing.
that is really cool. I mean, there is a move towards an analog world.
Hmm.
We are starting to see stories of people that are like, I want an album and a turnstile, and I want, how do I get a cassette tape, and can I do sort of like more traditional recording? And I'm seeing even a return to handwriting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You
And
know,
games. I think people are doing more. They're not playing video games as much. They're playing group games, right?
yeah,
I mean, I
because it's
remember a few
real.
years ago, D&D had a big resurgence, and it's still going on from what I hear from the youngins in my life. They're still playing D&D, and I'm just so happy that they've got, they're rolling 20-sided dice. And and this was my other side discovery. I'll do a side quest discovery that the shapes of the D&D dice are the Aristotelian or Platonic or the Pythagorean solids that
Yeah.
Greeks originally
Mhm.
outlined for all their math. I forget the exact Greek who was involved with it, but those are the solids. And so it's just
Mhm.
so fascinating that there's all this, history. Oh,
Yeah,
Max,
Mhm.
history's
the
cool.
more the more
Yeah.
vir the more virtual we become, the greater the pull to get to the real, because it's the only way to know for sure that something is true.
But in learning from you during this conversation, Max, it reminded me that the more we know about the real, the more equipped we are to deal with the virtual.
I think that's
Um, and so I think that's my takeaway from our conversation with you is that it's you got to understand the nuts and bolts, the wheels, the pulleys, the structure, the how many sides are on the dice in order to best use the virtual tools that we have at our disposal.
And when you see a dog podcast involving a golden retriever, if you own a golden retriever, you're better
I have
equipped to
one. I've
judge.
got one right here.
Got
Who's
one right there
crying?
to judge
Yeah.
whether the golden retriever's personality is accurate, and you said it was.
that's really awesome. I definitely what was the name of that show?
Goldie and Frenchie.
Goldie and
Gold.
Frenchie. I'm gonna have to look
Yeah.
Yeah,
that one up for sure.
it'll be in the show notes. But Max, this has been fantastic. Thank you
Oh,
so
Yeah.
much for taking the time.
oh,
And
absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you both for inviting me on. It's been a wonderful conversation. I've enjoyed every moment of it. Thank you.
all right, take care.
Great.
Take
See
care.
you later.
Well, that was fantastic. He's
Yeah, that was great.
Why do
We learned a
we keep
lot.
running into so many smart people?
You know why? Because we have smart friends who know smart people. And so just a shout out to Darrell for introducing us to Max.
Yes, Darrell Gunter, the great connector
Yeah.
of all things scholarly publishing. Thank you, Darrell, for that.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I've got a cartoon of Max's right behind me. They're blurred out,
Hmm.
but it's there. And it'll be in the post. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our friends at Provoke the Truth for the music. If you have topics you want us to cover, please email us at disruptedscience@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can also subscribe to The Geyser and get updates on developments of various kinds in scientific and scholarly publishing and support our efforts. So, in the meantime, thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.